You were listening to a Nerd Room podcast, a member of the Star Wars Commonwealth Podcast Network. Be sure to check out more from the Star Wars Commonwealth on the web at starwarscommonwealth.com and take your first steps into a larger world. Hey everyone, and welcome to the Nerd Room, where we talk all things comics and movies. This is episode number 58. We're discussing Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi, and also a little bit on the Logan final trailer. I'm your host, Tim.
I'm Troy.
We finally got a reveal from Star Wars Episode 8. We've been wanting this. We've been begging for something here, just a little reveal. And Disney decided, or Lucasfilm decided, to whet our appetite a bit here. We've got the momentum dying down from Rogue One, and we finally get the title for Episode 8. I thought they're going to wait all the way to Celebration, but I'm glad that we got something here on just a casual Monday afternoon.
I'm right there with you. I'm surprised. I thought it was going to be Celebration. We got that announcement, but it makes sense, I guess, with Rogue One cracking that $1 billion mark, and it's kind of dying out a little bit. Yeah. That why not give us some more Star Wars and keep that hunger going with the title, Episode 8. I'm
excited to speculate here because the internet's been running rampant with speculation as to what this title could actually mean. And of course, we're going to overanalyze this. It could be a very simple title, but we're going to get into that. And also, we're going to discuss this episode, the final Logan trailer. I'm always one to say, don't watch the final trailer, and that I had to watch this because of my skepticism going into this movie. And I'm happy I did, but also a bit sad that I did as well. So we're going to break that down towards the end of the episode here. But like I said, we finally got this reveal, The Last Jedi. And Star Wars announced this on their website on Monday. And what's interesting about the announcement, they made a nice reference to the fans here, but they did say the title for the next chapter of the Skywalker saga. So does this kind of change your thoughts on Rey?
Not too much, because I wasn't giving too much into that theory of the Obi-Wan. Yeah. The general audience has always believed it's been a Skywalker saga, but it's really cool they've laid the stamp down and they're saying, yeah, this is a Skywalker franchise. So, kind of backs up my theory a little bit more so. I'm going two ways. I mean, the obvious one is Luke, and there's that other option I have where she could be a clone of Luke, or a clone of Anakin. Somewhat going back to Jakku. There's a whole bunch of things going to that theory, but no, I love this news. We're back on track. I'm all about the Skywalker legacy, and we're right back on track.
Well, it's nice to see that they've acknowledged that, and it does make me question a bit about my theory about her being a spawn of Palpatine.
Yeah, oh yeah.
But I think all in all, it's a Skywalker story. We still have Luke there. Ben Solo is technically of the Skywalker lineage, so it is focusing in around the Force-wielding Skywalkers to a degree, and it's interesting that they did mention that.
Absolutely.
Before we speculate a little bit on what this title actually means, The Last Jedi, I thought it'd be kind of fun to go through each individual title in the Star Wars films, from the prequels right through into The Force Awakens, and just give our snap judgment as to what we think, or what we've always taken them to be at face value. So let's start off, we're going to go chronologically. Let's start off with The Phantom Menace. What are your thoughts?
Palpatine
for sure.
Puppeteer, for sure.
Yeah, the return of the Sith.
Yes.
Attack of the Clones. Very literal, I think.
The spawn, the dawn of the clones. The clone army,
Revenge of the Sith.
Payback time. Anakin's joined them, and the Sith are on their rise.
The death of the Jedi Order, more or less.
Order 66.
Yes. Rogue One. Very literal.
The call sign, right? The team coming together, Rogue One. Yeah.
Definitely. This is an interesting one here. A New Hope. Has your perspective changed a bit as to what this title exactly means coming off the back end of Rogue One?
I still believe it's Luke Skywalker. Yeah. Still going with that. The Jedi, there's hope for the Jedi.
Yeah, I agree. I've always thought it's Luke, and I'm sticking with it.
Awesome.
The Empire Strikes Back.
Oh, yeah. They're getting the win. They do get the win in this movie. Spoiler alert.
Very literal again. So that's both the second entries into the individual saga films, or the prequels and the original trilogy, that are very literal titles. Mm-hmm. And Return of the Jedi.
This is a tricky one. For me, I believe it's Anakin's return to the light.
The Jedi, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it can be taken, I guess, both ways. I've always taken it as the return of the Jedi through Luke.
Okay, yeah.
And when I thought a bit more about it today, I was thinking it's the return of the Jedi. If Anakin is the chosen one, the one that's meant to bring balance to the Force and destroy the Sith, he's finally returned here in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, so he kind of gets two titles. He gets, Revenge of the Sith, and then he gets the Return of the Jedi, if you look at it that way, for Episode 6.
Yeah. Now, skipping ahead 30 years, The Force Awakens.
Literally the title, The Force is Awakened.
Do you think it's in an individual, or do you think it's an awakening of the Force and of evolution into something different?
That's interesting. I always interpret it as the individual and kind of the general audience. Like, the Force is back. We were excited again for the Force. Yeah. But more so the character, I believe, the individual.
Yeah, I was, so Rey specifically.
Yes. Yeah.
So I was thinking about it a bit today, and I was running through my head and trying to connect these two titles up. Again, over-analyzing it as we do from time to time.
Star Wars.
The Force Awakens, I'm thinking of it maybe as the Force is awakening and maybe evolving into something different. We've talked a lot about, and we spoke about this on our Rebels After Show, Star Wars Rebels Alert, that drops every Monday. Little plug there.
Check it out.
About how we're seeing the Force evolving into something different through Kanan. And we're seeing these threads tying in the Bendu and what Ahsoka is. And
the Night Sisters.
Yeah, the Nights, like all these different things and aspects. And the Force surrounding different people. Kanan had a very interesting line on this past week's Rebels about how the Force is embodied in everyone. And we've got Mace Katana and we've got Lyra Urso. So there's a lot of these characters in here that are demonstrating to us in this new canonical material that the Force isn't as binary as we thought it was. It's not as black and white Sith Jedi. There's a lot of gray areas. So I'm curious, maybe reading into it too much, but the Force Awakening is kind of this change, this status quo change in the Force awakening. And maybe that's through Rey that's happening.
Right.
And I think that ties a bit into what my assumption is for The Last Jedi, in the sense that Luke might be the last Jedi, and that's referred to directly in the crawl of Episode 7. Like Luke Skywalker, the last Jedi. So it's very specific there, and it could be as simple as that. But I've taken this more of a less literal sense and more abstract in the sense that it's the last of the Jedi Order. Luke is the last of the old Jedi Order, and we're having something new being born in this movie through Rey.
I really like that. When you put it that way, I'm really sold on the idea. Because, the obvious answer is just to be like, okay, Luke's the last Jedi. Looking into it too much, what if it's in reverse? Or not even reverse. What if it's Luke isn't a Jedi? What if he gave up the whole mantle and Rey is the final Jedi? I don't know. But I really do like your speculation going on there. It's a lot better than the crazy one I'm hearing out there where basically because the font is red and the background's black, that we're meant to believe Darth Maul is somehow related to this whole thing. It's crazy. I threw it out the window, but I did hear about it. It's not me that created it, but I did hear this theory, and I don't chuckled.
Buy that at all. I think it's an interesting way to contrast a bit the title. Like there has talk that I think the Phantom Menace, the first title was red, and I believe Return of the Jedi. I might be wrong with the.
It might have been Revenge of the Jedi, even. I think,
right? So there's. I think the original either was Revenge of the Jedi, Return of the Jedi. The original title was in that red font. Yeah. So them tweaking it here, it's giving everyone a bit to speculate on, but I think it's maybe a more sinister look to it, because we're all expecting this film to end on somewhat of a down note, I would say, much like Empire Strikes Back. I'm expecting the First Order to come back in a big way, and I'm expecting Kylo to have a really large presence in this movie. So it may be referring to that a bit. It may just be a creative or a design choice they have done. Let's contrast a bit what we did with The Force Awakens. Step away from what they built in The Force Awakens in the sense that we're relating a lot of that movie to what we've seen before. Maybe they're paving their own path with this. Yeah. So it's something different. I like the red font. I think it's cool.
I love it. Here's a curveball, though, maybe, and I just thought of this just now. Could be totally crazy. Kylo Ren was Luke's pretty much last apprentice, or at least he killed all the other apprentices. Yeah. He was probably a Jedi at some sort, right? But he's not actually a Sith. We do know Force Awakens he's not a Sith. What if it's his kind of return? What if he is technically the last Jedi because he's not actually been crowned a Sith or a Darth? Could it be his film? Could he be the last Jedi?
Interesting, because there's always that speculation going around about Rey and him flipping positions further down the line, maybe at the end of this movie, which would be a crazy twist.
Huge twist.
It's a twist almost that you see it coming maybe from afar and you really don't believe it.
Right.
But when it happens, you're like, holy, like that would blow my brain apart.
For sure.
Like,
I lose my mind.
I don't even know how I'd be able to comprehend that sitting in the film, because it's just because Kylo or Ben, he went so far into killing his father.
Han Solo,
how do you have a redemption story for a character that has done that, has slaughtered what was the Jedi Order that Luke was building, is now actively pursuing Luke, as well as kills his own father? Like, that's a lot to come back from. And I guess when you talk redemption stories, though, Vader, we all forgave him.
The younglings, the sand people. Well, they're sand people, but the younglings.
All he did, the purging of the Jedi and the tyranny, and how just relentless he was with people and systems that we've seen in the books, we've seen in the comics, everything. Like, he is a horrendous human, or whatever you want to call him.
He redeemed himself.
And he's redeemed. When he pops off that mask and says, "My boy," or whatever, like, we're all like, okay, you're forgiven.
Yeah, you're
like,
cool, man.
You destroyed the Emperor, but we're cool. We're all good. We're cool with everything you did, which is crazy sometimes. When you think about it, you step back and realize what he's done. Like, even think about Vader down or the end of Rogue One.
Yeah.
How he just slaughtered people.
Effortlessly.
Yeah. Relentlessly. Unforgiving.
Yeah.
So, but it's interesting. I guess you could go down a redemptive path with Kylo Ren. I don't think I'd particularly like that. I like the path that they're going, that he is just pure evil. He's a seed. He's a spawn of Vader. And I really like that. But one thing I was thinking about too with Kylo today was, what happens when he realizes, or if Luke reveals to him, that Vader actually turned back? Like,
well, that's his thing. Do you think he knows?
I don't think so.
Because Bloodlines touches roughly on the fact of Vader, not so much Anakin, being related to his mother Leia, right?
Well, I think they know that there's the lineage there, and that's revealed to the majority of the galaxy at this point. Well, in Bloodlines, but I don't think Luke's ever revealed, from my impression, that Vader actually came around and not so much apologized, but he saw the light again, and we do see his Force Ghost reappearing at the end of Return of the Jedi. So that gives us the indication that yes, he's felt redeemed more or less within the Force, I guess.
Because that would make sense. Because then how would, like, in order for Kylo to believe so much into Vader, he'd have to not know about Anakin's existence or his turnaround.
Because he makes specific reference to the idea that I'm going to finish what you started, grandfather. So he's thinking that, going back into the archives, and that Vader was the one that was purging the Jedi, and exactly what Kylo's trying to do, and has almost completed that task, right? That was set before him by his grandfather. So he's following that mythos of Vader in his attempt to destroy what remains of the Jedi in his pursuit of Luke Skywalker. Yeah. Crazy.
Great title, though, right? This is what this title does. They knew exactly what they're doing over there at Disney.
Like I said, it's just coming off the back end of Rogue One.
Yeah.
It's dying down here. The theatrical release is going to come to an end within the next couple of weeks. It's crossed that $1 billion mark. Let's give them a little something to chew on. And my first reaction to this title here, The Last Jedi, was much more positive than I think The Force Awakens was. When I read The Force Awakens, I didn't read too much into it at the time, but I did feel that it wasn't exactly what I thought it was going to be, and I've grown to really love that title, The Force Awakens, and as you see, I've over-speculated into exactly what it means. Yeah. But this title, it feels like a Star Wars title. It feels like an OT Star Wars title, and that's what I love about it.
Absolutely agree, yep.
And speaking a bit about Rogue One here, and with Episode 8, box office predictions. Like, people are already talking about what this is going to do as far as box office. So The Force Awakens did $2 billion worldwide. It almost did $1 billion domestically.
Wow.
And Rogue One is wrapping up its theatrical run, probably another couple of weeks, like I said. And it's done about $500 million domestically and just over $1 billion globally. So about half in every single market that The Force Awakens did. Do you think Episode 8 is going to match that of or surpass The Force Awakens? Or do you think it's going to play somewhere in between? It's a saga film, so it's always going to get like this Avengers-esque bump, I'll call it, where you do have the fandom and the general population gets a bit more behind the stories, they're a bit more familiar with, as opposed to these standalone movies. That the accomplishment of Rogue One there, doing $1 billion, is unreal, especially for a standalone movie. Yeah. It did feel like a Star Wars movie, and it played a lot to what we felt in the OT, but at the same time, it's not a saga film.
Right.
So do you think this is going to surpass The Force Awakens?
It's tough to say. The Force Awakens had all the anticipation, all that build-up.
Yeah, 10 years.
10 years of the build-up, so it's going to be tough. This could definitely be a better film than Force Awakens, and I love The Force Awakens. I think it's going to be in between. We still have to see the marketing, the campaign for this movie. It's going to be a big push from Celebration or the Super Bowl if they have a spot. It's going to be a hard push for this movie, but it really depends. It's a Star Wars film, so it's going to crack huge numbers. It's definitely going to do better than Rogue One, but it's going to be hard to pass that Force Awakens line.
Yeah, the anticipation, I think, is what
It's
is
key.
going to maybe hold it back a bit.
Yeah.
But you have to think about it too, like this could be one of Leia's last portrayals on screen,
That's a
and
big
depending
thing.
on what they do in Episode 9 with her, so a lot of people are going to flock to the theaters to get that one last Leia scene and that one last Leia experience prior to maybe what they're going to do at the end of Episode 8. We don't know exactly what they're going to do, and we've talked about that a bit, and it's becoming a bit like, I don't like talking about it anymore and speculating,
Yeah.
but that is one thing that may drive people in, is they want to have that one last shared experience with her on the big screen. So I think that'll contribute to a bit, but I agree with you. I don't know if it'll do quite Force Awakens money, but I think it's going to do enormous money when we're talking box office, even just domestically. I think this is going to ride up there second all time. I think it's going to sit right behind The Force Awakens. Like, we don't have that 10-year absence. We don't have this new era of Star Wars. People are now familiar, and people are more comfortable with the fact that we're going to get a Star Wars movie every single year, and maybe we just don't have the time to go to the theaters. Like, of course, you and I, we're going to see this numerous times in the theaters. We're going to be there opening day and all that.
For sure.
And fandom's going to be there. But your comment about a Super Bowl spot, do you actually think in 2 weeks we're going to get a spot for this? Because my prediction would have been maybe May time. Maybe like Guardians of the Galaxy time.
I know, and the thing is, I'm surprised that we even got this title announcement. That's the only reason why I thought maybe they'd fast track it now. But at the same time, I don't think Disney even needs it. I mean, those Super Bowl spots are crazy expensive, and when you have a franchise like Star Wars, you really don't need those spots. So yeah, I'm with you. Maybe we'll probably get something later on during Guardians run, but at the same time,
They could literally do anything. They could literally just have Poe's X-Wing fly across the screen and just flash up the title, and people would lose their
minds.
Like, it could not even be footage from the movie.
That's
it could
true.
be left over from The Force Awakens.
Just to get
and
the
just
crowd
people
hype.
would never know, right?
Yeah, for sure. But they're off to the right start. I mean, this title's huge,
Yeah.
and I think it's already better received than The Force Awakens. Yeah.
So excited to see this.
Can't wait.
I'm also excited that we got the synopsis for the Thrawn book. This book drops in a couple months, April 11th. You can get it on pre-order on Audible now, I believe, as well as your hardcover if that's what you prefer. But it's an interesting synopsis for this book, and it really tells exactly what we thought it was going to be. It's chronicling his rise through the ranks of the Imperial military. And there's some interesting quotes in here. There's a reference directly to Darth Vader and how the Emperor views Thrawn as committed to the Empire as his pupil Darth Vader. And there's some nice references to Governor Price, who is present in Rebels as well. And he does seem to have somewhat of a trusted aide that's going to be probably poking in and out of this book, someone for him to riff off of that he is training to some degree. But I really like what they're telling us here. Like, this looks like it's going to be a thoroughly interesting book. And the fact that it's written by Timothy Zahn as well.
The man himself, yeah.
Man, I'm really looking forward to this.
I can't wait. Going off because you're more of the Thrawn expert. Warrior stood out to me. Was he known as being much of a warrior in the extended universe there, the Legend universe?
To be honest with you, and this comes to what we talked a bit about in the season 3 mid-season trailer with him doing the training and that, I don't quite remember that. And if there's anyone out there listening that does have a bit better idea if Thrawn was a warrior. I'd read those books maybe like 10 years ago or so I can't quite remember if he did have any sort of warrior skills, or because it was always about him being a tactician and the art and all that. Like, that's how I remember Thrawn. I don't remember him throwing down, really.
That's right. Yeah, because like you said, that Rebels episode that we did a little while back, we saw that trailer and I was questioning it. Like, this guy seems like he's pretty strong in his combat field, basically, right? So
it is interesting, and like we talked about Lost Stars and all that, like the fact that it makes sense that he's trained, because all the admirals, all the officers, they keep up with their training. They're cunning warriors, but they're also cunning strategists as well.
Yes, I want to see the relationship, the dynamic between Vader and Thrawn.
How cool would it be to have them almost opposing each other, kind of like the battle that we got between Tarkin and Krennic in Catalyst, but between Vader and Thrawn, because Vader sees this guy coming up and sees the Emperor favoring a bit of what he is. He can do no wrong. And, is he going to take the place of Vader? Maybe not so much from a Sith or Force perspective, but more from finding the favor of the Emperor.
Well, that's just it, because obviously, Tarkin kind of rivaled Vader, and at least in that position. When you read the Vader comics, you know that Palpatine was always trying to make these freaks, these cyborgs, these creations to always surpass Vader. So it'll be interesting to see where Thrawn plays in that.
And if he tries to pit them against one another.
Right.
Which like we did see in the comics, right?
Yes.
So I'm immensely excited for this. This is
Can't wait to
on the
get it.
top of my list for most anticipated books for 2017. The day this drops is the day I'm plugging into my headphones and just getting directly into this book. And I think it's going to bring a lot to this character. And I'm interested to see if Timothy Zahn transports a lot of what he did in the original Thrawn trilogy just back into the original trilogy here. Because this is going to be more or less the definitive Thrawn story going forward. We're not going to see a reset of canon for a long time, if ever again. So this is going to be the story of Thrawn. I'm glad that Timothy Zahn is the one that is going to be doing it, and I think it's appropriate to have him in there. And he did some consulting with Dave Filoni and crew on Rebels about portraying this character. So they've respected what he did before, and having him come back is just another great thing, another great nod to the wider EU and the characters that they built in there and how they're transporting some of the fan favorites and some of the real powerful characters into our new canon.
Looking forward to it. Gotta get this book.
All right, changing gears here a bit. Let's step over into the comic book world. Let's do our comic book pick of the week. This has become a favorite segment of mine because not only do I love talking about comic books, but this segment in itself drives me to read several comic books a week where I had problems keeping up with comics because I got distracted by other things. But I love having this here because I love talking about the comic books, and we'd also love to hear what your guys' comic book picks of the week are. Yeah. Hit us up on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube page, and tell us what you guys are loving. We'd love to see what other people are recommending so we can jump into that too, because we're always looking for a little something to jump into. I know I'm always kind of stuck in the Marvel world, but I'm never opposed to jumping over and trying something a little different, even in trade form.
Yeah, for sure. I'd love to see your guys' picks of the weeks out there for sure.
So, Troy.
Yeah, man.
What is your comic book pick of the week?
Going back to DC again, second time in a row. Last week was Nightwing. This week is his mentor, the man himself, Batman, number 15. Written by Tom King, and the art is by Mitch Gerads. I hope I didn't butcher that name. This is a great book. It's a small, simple book. I've always been a sucker for the art, and actually this issue doesn't really have the best art. I shouldn't say the best art. It doesn't really appeal to me, but it's a love story really between Catwoman and Batman. Some really cool things going on here. You got your basic cat and mouse kind of action going on. Batman's after Catwoman for being guilty of 237 counts of murder, basically. But you find out along the way, without giving too many spoilers, that Catwoman's kind of had her own Robin in a sense. This character called Holly, who's actually been kind of like the Jason Todd in the Bird family, where she is actually kind of a bad kid. But it's a great book, simple story, and it's a two-parter called Rooftops. This is part 2 to end the arc of I Am Suicide arc. So yeah, it's a great book. Be sure to pick it up. DC's treating me pretty good right now.
Oh man, I love all comic books and that, but I like this rift between Marvel and DC. And I've always played into it. Yeah. But as you guys discuss how well the books are being received and how good they are on the Rebirth end of DC, it makes me more and more tempted each and every week to maybe step into that Batman world. Yeah, man. And they're $2.99, correct?
$2.99 American.
Yeah. It's a little bit easier to swallow than the $3.99 Marvel, and really then I'm losing my digital as well.
That's just it. One last little cool thing with this book, this guy, Tom King, what he does is, you have this encounter between Batman and Catwoman, and they go over their first encounter with each other. And the artist does something really cool where Batman recalls meeting Catwoman for the first time, and the art panel changes to like way back into like 1941 era of Batman, issue 1, where like the art's different. And Catwoman's like, no, I recall it a different way, where the art turns back to Frank Miller's Year 1 Batman. And so they both have their own kind of recall of when they met each other. Really great panel. That sold it for me in this book. So issue 15, go out there and check it. Good stuff.
That's really cool.
Really cool.
So is that maybe two different origin stories?
Two different origin stories they combined. Yeah, because Year 1 tried to reboot Batman in a way, right? Yeah, it's really clever what they did, and I just lost my mind when I read that. So good stuff. Yeah. Let's hear your pick of the week, man.
I'm going to go a little sideways here. Cool. It is a Marvel book, of course.
Of course.
But I'm going to throw down Monsters Unleashed #1.
Cool.
And we have to remind the listeners here, too, these aren't our picks of the week for the week. These are our picks that we've actually read this week.
Yes.
So not to be confused with our polls or anything like that from the week previous. This is our picks that we've actually gotten to and actually read. So sometimes I'm going to go back and give a pick of some ancient book that I picked up at a comic book store.
That's right.
But Side tangent there. Monsters Unleashed #1. This is Marvel's new crossover event, and something that I was fairly skeptical on coming into 2017, even going back to our most anticipated show a couple weeks ago.
Right.
But I have to say, the premise is a bit ridiculous.
It's out there.
So we have these comets coming from space, and as they crash, we're having these monsters come out and essentially start attacking the different cities. And you have each individual team protecting a different city. You see X-Men in London, you see the Avengers here, you see the Champions, you see the Guardians who are now planted on Earth, defending different portions of it. But I really like how fun it was, and how it got me introduced again to the different groups that are in the Marvel comic book universe, because I found myself, like I said before, a bit distanced, but this book has brought me a bit back into the idea of the different groups and got me a bit more familiar with who's on the Champions, what's going on in the Guardians world, what's going on in the Avengers, because I'm still not up to date with all those books. And I loved what they did with Hercules in here.
Oh, that's good with the Avengers scene there in Boston, or where is it?
I can't remember exactly where they were, but he had a big part in this, and he was a lot of fun. He's a character that seems a bit dislocated when you refer him directly to the Avengers. Like, he has a long history with the Avengers.
Yeah.
If you go back to the early days, he does make his presence felt in some of the early Avengers comic books when we do see the original team disperse.
That's right.
But it was a fun book. It's a nice change. It's a nice tonal change from this hero versus hero that we've been kind of immersed in since Civil War popped up in the theaters. And then the comic books reacted to that by having the Civil War II event. So I like the change here. And the art is okay. It's good. Like, I didn't find myself taken out of the comic book by the art. And that, like I said, it's just a lot of fun. It's a nice change of pace for a while.
It really is.
Because we had, the Inhumans versus X-Men, or I think that's still going on.
Still going,
And then we had all of Civil War, and then we had the movie Civil War. So it's a lot of heroes bashing heroes. And even in the DC world, right? It's Suicide Squad versus Justice League.
Exactly.
So a lot of that going on right now. And it's nice to see them pull back and do something different, which I like. So that's my comic book pick of the week, Monsters Unleashed #1. Go check it out for a nice fun read over at Marvel, and something that might get you a bit more engaged with the Marvel comic book universe again, because that's what it did for me, and that's why I'm picking it this week. It's got me re-engaged with Marvel.
And some cool stuff, because I know you're a big Indiana Jones fan. That little Indiana Jones moment in that book was cool. And Fing Fang Foom pops up, which is pretty cool. Yeah, I hadn't seen him in a while.
Yeah, he's always a ridiculous character, I
really
find. But his presence is always welcomed on my part. Like, I like sometimes having those ridiculous callbacks to the older days, and when they kind of shoehorn them into the modern age of comic books. I just love it.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Yeah, check it out.
And as we've wrapped up 2016, are now driving well into 2017, we have our award season upon us. We talked a bit about the Golden Globes a couple weeks ago, and the big one dropped just today, the Oscar nominations for 2016. And you and I are both big fans of these award shows. I really appreciate watching them. I like the dialogue that we do have with the host, and I like honoring some of these movies. And it always gives me an opportunity to go back and look at films outside of the comic book universe, outside of superheroes and Star Wars and the big blockbuster tentpole movies. This helps me focus in on some of the movies that are more of the critically acclaimed movies, and the movies that maybe touch me more emotionally, as opposed to appealing to my broader love of comic books and Star Wars and all that. And there's a huge list of Best Picture nominations from this, and you're slowly working your way through these films. But let's talk a bit about some of the Best Picture stuff here. We have The Arrival, Fences, Hacksaw Ridge, Hell or High Water. These are all movies that you've expressed to me in the last couple weeks. Like, dude, you got to check some of these out. These are big movies. What are your thoughts of this whole list here?
Yeah, for Best Picture, it looks pretty good. It's jam-packed. I've seen Moonlight, saw Hell or High Water, and I've seen Hacksaw Ridge. Going to see, actually, La La Land pretty soon. Looking forward to that movie. But it's a good-looking list. I wasn't actually the biggest fan of Hacksaw Ridge. I think that was all my most anticipated for 2016. I was really looking forward to that. I'm a big Andrew Garfield fan. Not the biggest Mel Gibson fan.
Oh, okay.
At least behind the camera.
He directed it, right?
He directed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I won't go into a review of that movie at all. But yeah, this list looks pretty great, and man, all I can say is Moonlight.
Yeah. Movie. You're talking about big time over the weekend, and I'm thoroughly excited to go check that out. And La La Land here, it cleaned up 14 nominations, tying the most ever with Titanic.
Wow, that's most nominations. Well, oh, sorry, but Return of the King got the most wins, I believe, right?
Yeah, Return of the King, I think got the most wins, but this is the most nominations going in. Awesome. And the way this got the love at the Golden Globes and the way this got the love here, I think this is going to actually clean up pretty good. I haven't seen the movie, I heard nothing but good things. So my wife is super excited to see it.
Oh, yeah.
I'm on board to see this. We've made a kind of a commitment. We say this every year, myself and my wife, is that we're going to run through the majority of these best pictures. And I think her and I are going to make a real effort this year to get through at least the majority of these.
Sweet. Yeah.
So, and we always do here in the Nerd Room, or at least last year we did, and we're going to continue it this year, is we do an Oscar prelude episode where we do our predictions, what we think is going to win, and we do put a little wager on it last year.
I'm going to redeem myself.
Yes. Last year Troy lost. Myself victorious. So I got a title to defend
Got the belt.
So some of it's a bit of a guessing game. And others I'm always just like, Star Wars is going to win. Star Wars is going to win. I was so disappointed when it didn't. But we do get a couple nods here in the Oscars for the movies that you and I discuss here a lot in the Nerd Room. Doctor Strange and Rogue One got nominated for Best Visual Effects, which is to be expected.
Yes.
Best Sound Mixing, Rogue One got a nod as well. And Best Makeup and Hair, Suicide Squad and Star Trek.
Yeah.
I don't know why Suicide Squad for best makeup and hair. I can't. Was it the Joker or Harley
maybe
Quinn?
Killer Croc, but I thought his makeup was horrible.
Killer Croc,
and there's those putties for the Power Rangers in that movie.
Oh yeah, but they were all CGI, I think.
I think it's a bit of both.
Was it both?
Yeah, and then there was the inflatable like car wash dancing person.
And the Enchantress. Nothing really stood out to me there, and Sanjay's going to kill it because he was super excited that it got nominated for an Oscar, because he told us you now have to refer to Suicide Squad as the Oscar-nominated Suicide Squad.
I saw that tweet.
I just rolled my eyes.
Yeah.
Sorry, Sanjay. I'm not doing that. So I'm really looking forward to checking out this awards show and actually getting through some of the list of these movies.
Definitely.
Like it's something that, like I said, we're going to focus in a lot here in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I'm excited, man. I've said it before. I'm really big on the music scene, and I can't wait to watch La La Land. I'm a huge fan of Emma Stone, and I really do like Ryan Gosling a lot.
They're both great actors.
Fantastic. Yeah, and I think even John Legend's in there too, actually. So that'll be exciting. Yeah, he is. Yeah, so that'll be cool.
Awesome. So look for our Oscar prediction episode dropping the week before the Oscars. So I think the Oscars are sometime in March.
Yes. Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. So look for that episode towards the end of February and into March.
So I think Deadpool's getting some love too, isn't he? Or he is close to it.
Yeah, because they were petitioning
for the screenwriting.
Yeah, I think so. But I didn't see it in there.
Yeah, I guess he didn't make it close.
Yeah, because I went through it pretty quick here. So if we did miss it, make sure you let us know.
Yeah.
I don't think Deadpool was
he made it
in there.
There's talks of it, but he didn't make it. Okay.
That would be interesting, though. It'd be nice to see something like that. Something very sideways nomination.
Yeah.
And speaking about movies, jumping over to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They began shooting literally everything this past week. We got our first set photos and confirmation that Black Panther has started shooting.
Yeah.
Man, am I excited for this film.
Can't wait, man. Chadwick Boseman and Michael B. Jordan. This is going to be sweet.
Did you see that photo that Michael B. Jordan posted on Instagram? Holy crap.
Jeez. Yeah.
The guy's bigger than he was for that Rocky movie.
For Creed. Yeah. I know. Like, his trailer is phenomenal. Awesome.
I can't believe this guy. Eric Killmonger. My buddy sent me a text of him yesterday, and I was just like... My buddy and I think I've said this before, but we have this kind of back and forth text message where we text almost exclusively in Michael B. Jordan photos. And I'm going to see him this week, and he texts me this photo. He says, "This is how jacked I am to see you this week." And I was like, "Oh my god!" That was the first time I saw it. I was like, "This doesn't even look real."
Yeah, that's crazy. So you guys got your own like Michael B. Jordan Snapchat.
Yeah. Exclusively awesome. Michael B. Jordan.
Yeah. Awesome.
What did you think of the new title card for Black Panther?
I really like it. It's cool to get away from like the chromed out, glittery looking font. So yeah, I really appreciate what they did, and I feel like it fits the character more, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I agree with you fully there. It makes it feel more like a Black Panther movie. Like that first logo, it was somewhat likened to the comic book one currently. But what they have here is a bit more primitive, I would say. Mm-hmm. I really like what they did.
Yeah, and a little more grounded, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also Infinity War. Avengers Infinity War began shooting, I believe, on the 23rd, which was Monday or maybe Tuesday. I can't quite remember. But there's some set photos. Well, I'm going to say set photos in quotes, because the Russo brothers did acknowledge the fact they started shooting by showing us a humongous row of RVs. Looks like the trailers for the entire cast, which stretches from the front of the screen all the way to the end. And we know there's a massive cast in this, and we get continued confirmation of people who are going to be in this. Dave Bautista confirmed that he has started shooting Infinity War on the first day. So Drax is going to be in this movie in a big way, I think.
I can't wait for that. He's my standout for that team, for Guardians, so I can't wait to see Drax on there.
I'm so excited to see how they integrate Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 into Infinity War, because that's going to be our last appearance of Guardians prior to seeing them a year later in Infinity War. And they have to have some sort of setup there, because we do have confirmation that Gamora's in it as well. And I'm sure we're going to see Chris Pratt's Star-Lord showing up as well. Man, this is going to be a good movie.
It's going to be expensive to make.
Wow. Jeez, and they're shooting them back-to-back.
Yeah.
The Avengers Infinity War and the yet-to-be-titled Avengers 4. I'm assuming we'll get the title at the end of Avengers Infinity War.
Yes, totally agree.
Because that's going to be like the pop-up. That's going to be your end credit scene or one of them. You know
be
how
sure
they
to
usually
stay tuned to see these characters in.
Exactly. How they usually do that, Captain America will return at the very end of the entire credit sequence. And that, I think that's when we'll get the Avengers Infinity War Part 2 or whatever it's going to be called, Infinity Gauntlet.
Yes.
And that, so
can't wait, because Marvel and Kevin Feige have a plan. They know what they're doing. DC.
You're not referencing anything specific, are you? It's interesting because there seems to be this shroud of secrecy around this. Like, to us, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But even the cast, there's an interview with Elizabeth Olsen and Jeremy Renner, and Dave Bautista also commented on this, that they started shooting and had yet to see the script.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's ballsy. Holy, okay. Yeah.
So I don't know I don't know how they do the pre-production stuff, if they do like the practice scenes and do table reads and all that first, if that's considered your first day of production, or if it's full costume swinging Drax's blades and Hawkeye's arrows. Like, I don't know exactly what first day of production actually means.
Yeah.
But it looks like it's going to be probably the next year when we're getting images from these films. So we're inevitably going to get the set footage, and we're inevitably going to get backstage photos or leaked photos and all that.
Yeah.
And trying to piece some of this together is going to be a lot of fun over the next couple months.
Yeah.
Because we're also doing this massive MCU retrospective right here in the Nerd Room. We have recorded our first episode, Iron Man, and we're going back and revisiting some of these films, or all of the cinematic films, over the next 16 months as we build into a weekend of release review of Avengers Infinity War. So it's very appropriate for us to be dropping our first episode this Monday, January 30th. That's where we're going to be dropping our Iron Man look back and review. We talk all about the inception of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, as well as go through in a lot of detail our thoughts on the Iron Man movie. And I just have to say, that movie is something else. Like, I hadn't seen it for a couple of years, and revisiting this with the hindsight of what they've built into, it's an incredible film.
Yeah, it holds up. If you guys go back to our Doctor Strange review, I put Doctor Strange at the top of my list for the best standalone origin story. I take it all back after going back to Iron Man 1, because this movie holds up to this day, from the CG, from the storytelling, to the directing, to the humor. This movie has it all. So be sure to check us out on Monday, next Monday.
Yeah, so that will be dropping on the same feed you're listening to right now, and we'll be dropping a new episode each month. Be sure to head over to our Podbean page and check out the pages at the top. There's a little bit of description in there as exactly what movies we're going to be doing every single month. Next month, February, is going to be Incredible Hulk, and so on and so forth. We're going to try to go as chronologically as possible through these movies, while also supplementing in the weekend of release reviews for the newest Marvel Cinematic films. So like Troy said, make sure to check back here on Monday in the feed you're listening to. There's going to be no Star Wars Rebels alert for the next couple of weeks, so that's going to take the place next week of our usual Monday release. So check that out. Nice. Super excited to do this series, and I'm really happy that we're getting back into this while driving into Avengers Infinity War.
Can't wait.
And sticking with Marvel films here, we had a big trailer drop. The final trailer for Hugh Jackman's last portrayal, maybe, of Wolverine in the Logan trailer, the final Logan trailer here. And we said last week we're going to discuss this and we're going to review this. We're going to pop it up here and do somewhat of a play-by-play review. But first, before we get into that, they did release a synopsis prior to dropping this trailer. And it reads, in the near future, a weary Logan cares for an ailing Professor X in a hideout on the Mexican border. But Logan's attempts to hide from the world and his legacy are upended when a young mutant arrives, pursued by dark forces. They really missed they should have put in pursued by sinister forces.
They really should have.
So this synopsis immediately disappointed me. I've had fears, and I've expressed those on the podcast about what this movie actually is, and if it's going to fall victim to the trope that has become the X-Men films. This, you get a great first trailer, you're really excited for this, and then you see something and you're like, this doesn't seem right. Something is a bit off here.
Yeah.
And the synopsis kind of points me in this direction already before seeing the trailer. When I see in the near future and hiding out on the Mexican border. Because I feel like in the first trailer, they really played to this idea that they're in this old man Logan setting. But it just turns out they're hiding out in the desert. It seems. I don't know.
Yeah, no, going into this, I love the Old Man Logan book, what they did there. I know Fox can only do so much with that story, so for them to kind of get away from that, I totally understand it. I get it. I'm still on board with this trailer, still on board with this movie, even with the synopsis. Because again, I might be crazy, but I kind of get a little bit of a Winter Soldier vibe. Not for the actual storytelling, but for the fact that Winter Soldier did a good job of showing you, much like The Dark Knight, what we can do with these superhero movies. They don't have to be just like Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. We can tell different stories, like a suspenseful thriller, right? So I feel like this movie is going to go that route too. They're going to give us a completely different story that we weren't expecting. So I can't wait for this. I'm not 100% on the little girl, like hip girl kind of X-23, but it could work both ways. It could be a big surprise.
I'm hoping it is a big surprise.
Yeah.
And I'm sometimes a bit skeptical on things and maybe a bit less optimistic than I should be. But some of this has still got me a little worried, and we'll get into that a little bit. But one thing I also want to talk about here was that Hugh Jackman caused a little bit of an uproar in fandom.
Yeah.
Because he was discussing through Twitter or through Instagram or something about how this wasn't connected and this was in a different universe than the other X-Men films. And so people were immensely confused by those comments. And I consider the director enough to come out and actually state specifically when this movie is being set and the fact that it is tied to the X-Men universe. So he says it takes place in 2029, 5 years after the events of the future of Days of Future Past.
Okay.
Which future, it's not really specified. I'm assuming it's the alternate timeline future because they did set up Logan in a different light in the X-Men Apocalypse movie. So I'm assuming it's coming off of that splayed timeline, this new timeline.
Well, see, because you're the expert on the timeline, so I thought what we saw in Apocalypse, that Wolverine that wandered off, was essentially still a prequel to what we see at the end of Days of Future Past play out.
So if you look at the original timeline, that includes X-Men Origins Wolverine. So all of that happened in the 70s.
Yes. So
that was Weapon X in the 70s.
Yes.
And the X-Men Apocalypse movie was in 1983, which shows him in Weapon X being transformed at that point. So you have like a 10-year spacing, or 10 years later when Wolverine enters into the Wolverine state as far as being the adamantium claws and all that.
Oh, so is Origin still in this universe then? Because I thought it was wiped over.
It really depends. I think you can cut about half of Origins out.
Oh, okay.
If you take it in just finite dates,
yeah,
parts of X-Men Origins Wolverine is still valid and parts aren't.
Okay.
So that's how I've always you have to tweak that. It's a big cluster, you know. But I think at the end of the day, when you look at X-Men Origins Wolverine and just say that's part of the original timeline, even though it steps all over continuity, it looks like Wolverine got his adamantium claws in the 70s at some point.
Yes.
And then in this movie, 1983, that's when we get Wolverine getting his adamantium claws. So there is a bit of a spacing difference between when he gets his adamantium claws in the original and when he gets them now.
Okay.
Or in this new timeline. So that's why I think they're a bit different. I might be completely wrong. Who really knows?
Who knows? Universe? And that brings me to my point. I mean, going off of Hugh Jackman's comments, it doesn't really bother me because, to be honest, I've given up on the X-Men continuity universe, at least after going into Apocalypse, because I feel it's just become such a mess. If Fox is willing to take the DC Comics route where it's creativity over continuity, I'm fine with that as long as they give me a good movie. Because I feel Apocalypse, they're trying to fit that in some timeline. It just wasn't working for me. I like what they did with Days of Future Past. I like what they did with First Class.
Yeah,
those two made sense to me. But everything else has just been a big mess. So if they just scrap that all and just give me a good story, then I'm on board.
I think that's what can save this movie, because the continuity is out the window.
It's completely.
Like as much as we try, and this is something that we love about the cinematic movie, and this is what a lot of companies and production companies and film studios are trying to emulate, is this idea of a cinematic universe and building up this larger basis to your films, and to have something to leverage off, as whether it's characters or whether it's story, and whether it's just hints and nods towards a bigger universe. But the X-Men have had this idea ingrained in them, and they've had the opportunity to do so much with it because they have so many characters to work with. Like, they could do literally anything. They could nod as little or as much as they want to. Like, look at what Deadpool did. It nodded to that universe, and it felt like it was kind of in that universe, but it didn't have to do this big extravagant, we have to have Hugh Jackman, Wolverine in this, or whomever. We don't have to
reference this date in this movie. Right?
Exactly. It's just, this is what it is. We're going to acknowledge this. We're going to acknowledge the fact that it was a bit chaotic.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. I think we have to focus a little less on continuity and more on the creativity and more on the story of this to see if it's actually successful, because it's not tying in really in any way. And I don't think we can ever expect that anymore. It's going to be about the story.
Yeah.
So let's jump in and quickly talk about this trailer. We're not going to go through it in too much detail because there's a lot of this that we had talked about in a previous podcast. So you go back and check out our review of the original Logan trailer. We'll go through a lot of what we felt when we watched that trailer, and we're just going to kind of go at a high level here. Does this change our opinion about the Logan movie from that original trailer? All right, well, I just had somewhat of a transformative experience here. I had expressed a lot of doubt in the last probably 10 minutes or whatever talking about this trailer, and we just sat back and re-watched it here with the sound on, and I found myself actually thoroughly enthralled by this. I don't know what just happened. I watched it the first couple, 3-4 times on my phone. Maybe that had a bit of an effect, but I actually enjoyed the trailer a lot more.
368.
As I expressed all this doubt, and as we're about to talk about this, and I'm about to come down hard on this, I just was like, man, now I sound like an idiot for the last 5 minutes because I like some of this.
That's hilarious.
I still have issues with a few things, but I actually liked it a lot more.
Awesome.
Even kicking off here, I had an issue with the music because going from that Johnny Cash song, I felt they set a tone for us in this movie and what we're going to actually get, and they kind of shifted here in this trailer, which I wasn't a fan of the first time I watched it. My first viewing experience, that was the thing I felt the most was, this feels like a different movie. Right. It doesn't feel like this black and white old man Logan, Johnny Cash gritty. In the background gritty film. It's a bit different. What are your thoughts on the change of the music and change of the tone of the trailer?
Yeah, initially the first bit of the score, the music that we hear, I'm not that fond of. But it does turn around for me, I think, within the next 10-15 seconds. I think the music does change. But I love this opening scene we get here with X-23 in the convenience store. That's great. You know, I gotta say, going back to our first initial review and just general talk of this movie, I wasn't the biggest fan of the choice of the portrayal of X-23 that they're using.
Yeah, the young girl.
But now I gotta say, as it's growing on me, she's going after that hit girl, and I gotta say, coming off of Stranger Things, this is like 11, kind of like.
Whoa,
you know,
man.
Yeah. So I'm kind of liking it. I'm kind of liking what we're getting so far.
I'm having just an out-of-body experience right now because I've gone from not liking this trailer to, after you saying that, I agree. I'm more on board with this girl. Yeah. I'm still not into the idea of her slaughtering people. Yeah. Like, there's a lot there, and I'm not convinced that the rated R cut for a Wolverine movie is going to benefit it like it did with Deadpool. Deadpool was more about being explicit and having the swearing, the F-bombs and all that in here, but being funny and light about it. Yes. Even the violence in there is lighthearted violence, really even though it is gory at times. I feel that the lightheartedness takes away from that intense gore, where this is more of a serious film that has a lot of serious violence in it. Mm-hmm. And that's where I'm kind of questioning a bit of the decision to go rated R. Mm-hmm. Because I'm a big fan. Some of these scenes of just unnecessary swearing, I really like that. When people say, drop F-bombs like Professor X at the end of this trailer, I'm howling. Like, I love that. Like, it's so out of character. It is. But I just love, I don't know what it is. I just get giddy about it. Like, I like when people just drop F-bombs.
It's great. It works. And they've been known to do it going back to Days of Future Past and First Class, right? By Hugh Jackman, so it's good stuff.
Yeah, and we did watch the Red Band trailer, so we got a bit more of the gore and also the language as well. But a lot of this trailer is focused in on X-23. It was someone that was slightly teased in the original trailer, and this one goes full on with her and giving you a little bit more insight into this character. And we get a scene here, a nice scene at the start, like you said, with her in this convenience store. And it's also this Quicksilver looking dude from the MCU. When I saw it for the first time on my phone, I was like, this is almost too much of a coincidence. Like, it looks like Quicksilver in the background.
Just like him. Aaron Taylor Paul, I believe, right? Yeah. Or Johnson, sorry.
Yeah, Aaron Johnson Taylor.
Yeah.
And she's a pretty badass character. And she seems to have that feral nature to her that we did see in Logan in X1, right? Yeah. Like, he didn't have this ability to... communicate or interact with actual people. She's almost like an animal in a sense.
And see, this comic book pops up, and for me, it works. It's kind of like going back to the continuity issue. It's kind of like calling out, like, we got this comic book here, and potentially everything that you've seen before in the past films could have been in these comic books, and this is like the real X-Men, you know? So it's kind of cool they play on it, and it's kind of like a big F you to Marvel, like, hey, we got a comic book of the X-Men right here, you know? But again, yeah, I know some people don't like it. It worked for me, this scene, yeah.
I'm kind of half there, half not. I like the idea of being a bit self-referential, and the fact that we do have these stories, these X stories that have been blown out of proportion within the kind of the real world. Yeah. But I thought it was a bit too on the nose. It's a bit more of a Deadpool style of self-referencing that I felt doesn't exactly fit this. I'll have to see how it integrates into the movie here, because it looks like it's X-23 that is reading these comics. It does have interest in Professor X, in the old stories of the X-Men. And it'll be interesting to see how much they actually replicate in whatever Bryan Singer's doing with the next X-Men, as far as tying a bit more into this scene a little bit.
Yeah. I wonder if Logan even mentions, like, I didn't wear this suit. You know,
that would be cool.
That'd be cool, right?
I never wore
that
yellow spandex. That would be awesome.
Yeah. So coming up here in this scene now, we get our first kind of taste of what X-23 is capable of, taking on this juggernaut of a person.
Yeah, these Reavers here, what seems to be one of the main villains of the film, and she does seemingly. I thought she decapitated the guy. Like, when I first saw this, I thought she was walking in with a head under her arm, but it turns out it's just the handcuffs or whatever, and she has a bag. But I was like, wow, that is intense.
Right? Yeah.
And then she just goes berserker mode here.
Yeah.
And this is one of the things, like I said just a couple minutes ago, that I did have issues with the gore with a young girl. And maybe it's me having a young daughter, and I just not fully into this. I would feel better if she was 16 or 18 years old. Someone that could handle that. But it depends on how they evolve the character and how they introduce her and demonstrate what she's gone through. If they can have a bit of exposition or show us how she's been brought up, you know, maybe she's been tortured a lot of what Logan went through in his early stages of transformation into the adamantium skeleton Wolverine character.
That's right. First F-bomb of the trailer.
It.
Yeah. Cool car scene going on.
But this girl, she seems to be able to hold her own when it comes to stunts, because that's one of the difficult things, is the believability that this young girl is actually doing a lot of this. And from this, I'm seeing, you know, she's on the hood of the car, she's slicing, she's dicing, she's running around, she's holding her own. And there's a couple scenes a little later on the trailer where she's jumping over Wolverine, she's doing the wire work. Like, it's really cool to see.
It is kind of like that 1-2 punch.
And I think having Professor X in this film is a real benefit to it. Like, the interplay between Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart is absolutely fantastic, and it shines through on the screen that they have worked together before. And Patrick Stewart, he is an absolute gem. Like, his presence in this is probably one of my favorite parts of this trailer. Yeah. Especially his last line.
And what a great send-off it'll be for the character or characters, because, you know, this franchise started with these two, and I think those two were the strongest points in X1, so it's great to see these two kind of finish off this franchise, at least.
Yeah, that last sign-off almost.
Exactly. And then we get the classic old man look, right from Mark Millar's Old Man Logan. The jacket.
Yeah, the yellow jacket and the claws out.
It's perfect.
Hugh Jackman's looking good here. I know I commented before that maybe he's not looking as big, but I think that might have been on purpose.
I think they're going for that look, right? Yeah.
A lot of family interplay you do see in this. I think that's really nice. It's a nice scene with them sitting around the table there.
Some more action in the woods, the classic Hugh Jackman.
Berserker mode, finally. Yes. Like, we did see it in X-Men Apocalypse in that scene, but not to the degree we're seeing here. This is full on smash my claws through your face. There's blood flying. It doesn't seem like it's finished. The blood just doesn't look right. It's not splattering right. And this is one of the scenes I had issues with him kind of flying through the air, doing the classic Logan jump. It looks like they fixed a bit of that in
from
this
initially
trailer.
The first one, right? Yeah. This scene, this trailer is doing such great jobs of showing off the best things we like of Wolverine. You know, we get the cool old man Logan desert looks, and then we get him in the woods, the wilderness, which is just all so Logan. And that title drop.
Yeah, I love that font there. Yeah, it's great. And this last line with Patrick Stewart here, again, it's unnecessary to have the F-bomb in there, but the way he drops it, I freaking love it. Like, I watched this for the first time on my phone, as most of us do, and I burst out laughing at this scene with him just dropping the F-bomb. Like, I don't know what it is about dumb swearing and the need for it, but I freaking love it. If you're gonna do it, you gotta do it this way. It's almost maybe, I guess, people that you don't expect it from.
Exactly.
You expect it out of Hugh Jackman. You don't expect it out of Patrick Stewart's Professor X,
yeah,
right?
at that age. Yeah.
And you're probably going to get X-23 dropping it too.
I'm sure we're going to get one little whisper there, right? Yeah.
All in all, what did you think of this trailer, and what does it do for you for this movie?
Yeah, it keeps my excitement level to a high. This movie's high on my list for 2017. Can't wait to see it. I love what they're doing. The location just looks great again. I love the desert look that we got going on with Old Man Logan. I know it's not going to be the Old Man Logan that we're familiar with in the comic book, but that's okay. I like the direction that they're going here. And again, they really won me over with X-23 because going back to this whole point with the last trailer, that was initially my weakness. Or I felt like that was their weakness, was X-23. But I think they've done a great job of showing her off and really winning me over.
Yeah, well, this trailer has won me over in this viewing.
Yeah.
So, like, I did express doubt, and I do still hang on to some of that. I don't like that the tone has seemingly changed from trailer to trailer. Mm-hmm. We do see that in films nowadays. They try to capture something different.
Yeah.
And they try to present the movie in a different form than we're actually going to get. I don't really like that because we did get a lot from the director, from Hugh Jackman, all these black and white photos. Yeah. It really gave us an idea that this movie is going to be very different tonally from some of the X-Men films. But it just looked like it's going to be an amped up as far as gore, Berserker Wolverine and all that. And I can appreciate what they're doing here. They're trying to play to some of that Old Man Logan storyline. They can't do it. Yep. But they're going to try their best to emulate some of it. Because this is a favorite storyline of yours. I've yet to read it, but it's something that I'm going to get into before even going and seeing this. Nice. It's inspired me to do that. And like I said, watching this for the fourth time, I'm encouraged again. I feel better about this movie. There are still some missteps, I think, in that trailer that maybe could have got me a little more on board with the villain. I think maybe that's where I'm having my biggest sticking point, is that Hugh Jackman looks good. Patrick Stewart's great. Like I said, I'm with you a bit more on board with X-23 now. It's just the Reavers and the main villain. I don't know if the dude in the white coat was supposed to be Mr. Sinister.
Yeah.
I'm just not fully there with the villain, but I think that's not going to skew my anticipation level here. I'm back up to where I was before we actually watched this last trailer. Yeah. And I have come back around here. Nice. I'm back on board with Hugh Jackman's Wolverine. I know I sound like an idiot now that I kind of was knocking this in the start, and now I'm hyping it up. But that's just the way it is. That's what trailers do.
That's just it. Sometimes it just has to marinate. You got to watch it a couple times. It's like a CD, right? Sometimes you got to listen to that track a couple times before you like it, right?
Yeah. So it sticks up there. I think I had it as my number 6 most anticipated, and I'm going to stick with that. That's coming out in March. We're going to be doing a full review of that. Oh, yeah. We're going to talk a lot about the comics and that the week before that. We're going to go into discussing Old Man Logan and some of the books that did inspire, or at least we think inspired, this film, as we always do with our comic book movies.
Cool.
So that about wraps it up this week from us here in the Nerd Room. It was an absolute pleasure talking Star Wars Episode 8 and having this experience with Logan trailer right in the podcast. Like, that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that, actually.
Good stuff. Sweet.
So, and just one last reminder, guys, our MCU retrospective series, our first episode is dropping this coming Monday. It's discussing Iron Man, so be sure to tune back in here on Monday to check out that first episode. We're going to be doing this for the next 16 months. We'd love it if you guys took this journey with us. If you'd like to comment, question, or add any sort of speculation to the MCU retrospective or to anything we talked about today. Are we crazy for our thoughts on the Logan trailer? What are your thoughts on what The Last Jedi means? How excited are you for the Thrawn book? Let us know by sending us an email at thenerdrm@gmail.com. You can hit us up on Twitter. Our handles are at the end of the episode, or you can grab us at #EnterTheNerdRoom. We'd always like to integrate the listeners into this and have a bit more of a wider discussion on these topics, as we enjoy talking about them, and we'd love to hear your thoughts as well.
Absolutely, guys. Always appreciate you guys coming in and tuning in every Monday and every Thursday to listen to the Nerd Room and SW Rebels Alert.
All right, guys, until next week for the Nerd Room, I'm Tim.
I'm Troy.
And thank you for entering the Nerd Room.
This has been a Nerd Room podcast production. You can find our hosts, Tim and Troy, on Twitter at TheNerdRM and Troy TheBoy87. Don't forget to subscribe to the Nerd Room on iTunes, Facebook, and YouTube. Just search the Nerd Room Podcast. Be sure to head over to StarWarsCommonwealth.com to find other podcasts on the Star Wars Commonwealth Podcast Network, including Talk Star Wars, Generation X-Wing, Tumbling Saber, Rogue Squadron Podcast, and the Skyhopper Podcast. Follow the Star Wars Commonwealth on Twitter at SW Commonwealth and take your first steps into a larger world.